Welcome to my designer class. My name is Mercy and I'm independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this really adorable little Valentine treat bag. Now, my son is in kindergarten and I decided to make these for his whole entire class. So I made 18 of them yesterday and it was a lot of fun, although a little time consuming, but I did do a couple shortcuts. For example, here with the gorilla or whatever he is, the ape, I stamped directly onto gray or smoky slate cardstock so that I wouldn't have to do as much coloring. I only colored the heart with the Stamparatus marker. So I will show you a little bit about that and also about how I created this topper using the stitch framelits. So it's the rectangle stitch die framelits, and I used the largest one. So I did go ahead and run it through the Big Shot because I wanted to save time. So here it is, and I just pop it out. So there's my frame, what's left, and of course it does leave stitching on the outer part, but I cut that pretty much to size, so we're not going to worry about reusing that. Next thing I wanted to talk about is using the stamping trimmer. Now, if you measure this, it comes out an 1/8 of an inch beyond 5 inches. So you want a 1/16 of an inch, 2 1/2, and a 1/16 of an inch. Now, sometimes if I'm going to be doing a bunch of these, I will mark it with a piece of scrap paper. I hope you can see this. So that I do not get myself mixed up and I don't have to consciously every time check. So that's just a little tip I have. If you're ever like making a bunch of something, just create a few cheats for yourself, and that's my cheat. All right, so here we have the folded card, the frame, the rectangle, and I'm just going to burnish it. So I'm going to make sure I line up my corners really well and use my bone folder just to get a nice crisp edge. So the next thing is we're going to stamp in the left-hand corner the to and from. And I have this already mounted, so it's from the, what is it? My mind's drawing a blank stamp set. It was one of the early releases anyway, last summer. Okay, so to and from, right in the corner, and I just put my son's name and then I wrote a generic friend because it would take a lot of time to figure out everyone's names, plus how kids are when they're handing it out. He's only 6, so imagining him trying to sort them all out would be a little bit daunting. So that is the basic base for it. The next thing I will do is bring in the Stamparatus and show you how I did the adorable ape. So here's my Stamparatus, and I'm bringing an empty case here. So what I did is I have a piece here that can cut out, is enough for 2, essentially. And because it's the gray cardstock or the smoky slate, it doesn't quite adhere quite as well as the Whisper White, the ink. It doesn't take to it, and I'll show you a little bit. It just seems a little faded here, so that is one of the reasons I did want to use the Stamparatus so that I can ink it up 2 times. So here we go. And then what I'm going to do here is turn my cardstock, and I'm going to stamp the other side so that I have 2. These are just a few shortcuts. If you do decide to make a bunch of treat bags or something, you could do that as well. So here we go. And there we have our 2 inked images. Of course, what's left is still to fussy cut them out and color the hearts. But I won't do the fussy cutting, but I will show you a little bit with the hearts. I used just a red Stamparatus marker. I did not use a blend this time. I haven't experimented how the blend would work, but I know the Stamparatus marker does really well with going on this ink. If you did a light ink, you would get a definite more distortion on the color, how it would come out. So I just came in here, and I do miss my blends when I'm using these Stamp Right markers, because the blends fill in areas, like you don't have to be as careful, and you can actually use the color lifter if you make a boo-boo. But this is such a little area. I did pretty well. I only made like a couple mistakes on the 18 that I did. So there you have him, and then just fussy cut him out. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the arrow. I thought this was my, like, I don't know, brilliant plan, but I thought it would be so cute to have an arrow through the heart. So, I mean, that's about as Valentine-y as you can get, right? So what I did is I simply stamped here, and then I brought in this classic label punch, and I punched it out. So what you want to do is line it up as close to the E as possible, because you need all that space on the left side. So here, let's try to get that perfect. And it's pretty tight between the H and the Y, so just something to keep in mind if you're... All right, so the next thing is you want to bring in your little snips, and we're just basically doing a reverse here. And you don't have to be super careful. You just want to get in there and create a V. And that is your arrow. Isn't that adorable? I thought so anyway. I thought it was clever. All right, so here is the Flirty Flamingo. And by the way, the base was real red. And this is an old retired punch I have. But they have a lot of like the stitched hearts that are just a beautiful set, which I do not have, sadly. So, but I make do. That would definitely work though. And then I will start bringing back in my elements here. Here is one of my little apes. I will bring this back in, and we will start with taping it. So about halfway down, I I have 2 pieces of tape. And so what I'm hoping is the people, the people who get these, the little kids, they can lift the front flap up, because I will just secure the front with a glue dot. So this tape sometimes can be difficult to work with, and it always wants to cling to your fingers too. Anyhow, I usually don't find it necessary to use extremely high-tech tape, but I definitely didn't want to take any chances with the kids. So the next, I have these little treat bags already made up, and I have a little heart and this little dove chocolate and this heart-shaped sucker. And I put these in jewelry bags, and I'm not sure the dimension on the jewelry bag, but they are, oh, I would say at least probably 5-6 inches by maybe 4 inches. So what I did is I allowed a little space at the top, and there is a little bit of overlap on these bags, unfortunately, but it's not too noticeable, I think. So I just adhere it that way, and now they could, you know, open it up and get their candy out. So there we have that. And then of course the glue dot. So bringing in my glue dot, I will just take one off, and this is essentially the lid. So I just put one kind of towards the top center. You only need one, because glue dots just hold things extremely well. And that is how it's secured. So it kind of lifts up a little bit because it has the bag here, it's able to kind of separate. All right, so bringing in my dimensionals, we'll just add a couple to our adorable gorilla or ape. I keep wanting to say gorilla, I don't know why. I think it's ape, because they say that the one sentiment says, I'm ape over you. So it's an ape. It's gotta be. Stampin' Up! Would not lie to us, would they? They would definitely have to tell us the truth. All right, so here we go. and I'm definitely not an expert on wildlife. There is our ape. Isn't he just adorable? I'm going to bring in some glue here, some liquid glue, and I'm just going to adhere it up here. So if you enjoyed watching this tutorial, please give me a thumbs up. This is a fun, easy craft, but if you're doing like 20 like I did, it does take some time. So I hope my shortcuts helped, and I hope you like this idea of the little arrow through the heart. I thought that was an adorable one by using the classic label punch. I thought that was a great idea. So that is the ape. I think he is adorable, the little treat bag, Valentine. If you would like to order any products, please email me at mewants3@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. Happy stamping.